This is RetroForged Reacts, and we are talking today about Haammerdance new video on Classic Season of Discovery. Is Phase 8 as good as everybody thinks it is? Is the Scarlet Enclave really the classic raid that we've been missing? Is it just sweaty hype? We'll find out. There's going to be some things that I agree with, some things that I don't, but what we want to know is Phase 8 really fire, or is it just some sweaty trash? Let's dive in. So if you guys haven't had a chance to take a look at Haammerdance, I highly suggest you follow him if you are into Season of Discovery content or really just World of Warcraft content in general. But you can visit him at Haammerdance Gaming on YouTube or Haammerdance on Twitch. He does stream live. I'm by no means associated with him other than just being a fan of his content. So hopefully you appreciate this. And yeah, let's dive into the video.
And welcome back to another video. We are now a few days after SOD Phase 8 launched and 2 days after the new Scarlet Enclave raid has launched. And you're probably clicked on this video to see, is it worth it to come back to SOD for Phase 8, which might be the last phase of SOD, but then again, we got a video from Blizzard earlier this week talking about the fact that they might have some more stuff planned for SOD in the future. Well, that's what we're going to talk.
So the blue plus that he's mentioning is, in fact, indeed, that SOD is going to live for the foreseeable future. They have no plans of shutting down the servers, and in fact, they want people to enjoy the characters that they've built for more time to come. What that more time to come means, I don't think any of us really know. There's a lot of speculation. However, it is confirmed that these Season of Discovery servers are actually going to remain as they are currently, at least with the last real patch being that we know of is the Scarlet Enclave in Phase 8.
Talk about today in this video. So if you're on the fence, maybe want to come back, but you don't know if it's worth it, this is the video for you. Or maybe you are playing and you want to know how other people feel. Sit tight. Let's dive in. So Season of Discovery Phase 8 launched on April 8th, which is this past Tuesday, and the raid launched on April 10th, which was Thursday, 2 days ago. So with the launch of Phase 8, we got the new Avalon area, a few new quests, a bunch of new profession items. It's pretty cool to see this stuff coming to Classic WoW. It's kind of what we've been waiting for this entire time. But the real meat and potatoes of this video, what I really want to talk about is the new raid, the Scarlet Enclave. Now, I spent the better part of about 8 to 10 hours in this raid so far on 2 different characters since launch. And I want to talk about the expectations for this raid, if it met those expectations, and if it lives up to the hype. So my personal opinion here is the first night we went into this raid on launch night. I went in with my community guild with No Hit Jerome, San Medina, Ebonheart, a couple of other people. We went in with 40 players, for the most part. Between 30 and 40, we kept losing people, gaining more people back, and we cleared a bunch.
So this is purely just one gripe that I have about WoW players in general. And no offense, guys, because I am one of them. But if you sign up for raid, the current expectation is that especially when it comes to like retail, is if things aren't going your way, you're just going to bounce and try again another day. And that's really not that's not a great thing to do for the game in general, but also for the people that are, especially if you're in a 40-man raid situation where you have all these other people who have dedicated their time to this raid. And of course, it's not going to go the way that you want it to every single time, especially in a progression style raid environment. You're going to die a lot and you're going to learn mechanics, and that's just kind of how it is. And so I think that you'll find more joy in the game if you take the time to actually stick it out. And of course, real life happens. I have kids and sometimes things get in the way. But if you set aside some time to do this raid, make sure you see it through. And I think that you'll find that you will actually learn something. And if you do end up finishing bosses, that feeling of progression is going to be with you for a long time.
Bunch of trash, which on night one was incredibly hard. The trash was super overtuned, but we did it nonetheless, and then we probably did about 20 to 30 attempts on the first boss, Balnazar. Now, I think that even with
Balnazar,
repeatedly
no
dying on
joke.
that first boss on night one because it was very overtuned, it was an absolute blast. I think it was a lot of fun, and the layout and design of this raid is absolutely exceptional. I think they did a fantastic job, even with it being a little bit overtuned, which I kind of hesitate to say because I don't really know if it's overtuned. I think it's brilliant. I think the raid is amazing.
So it does feel a little overtuned, but it also is. We have to remember that this is the truest form of progression that we've seen in quite some time in WoW, and so going into this raid, we are terribly undergeared for it, and I think that's done on purpose by Blizzard, and they want people to attempt these bosses, get the loot from the first couple to kind of build your gear score and your item level up so that you can progress through the raid. That's the whole point of doing these raids, is to outfit your people with at least some semblance of better gear so that you can feel like you're a little bit more powerful. You're getting that little bit more of DPS or healing or mitigation in through the workings of getting some of the trash loot and some of the boss loot. That's just part of progression, and I think that a lot of us have forgotten that that's how it was.
I went in last night with another guild that needed a few pugs. I decided to go on my hunter. We went pretty good players. We ended up killing Balnazar on the second attempt, and then we put like maybe 10 to 12 attempts in on Beatrix, got her down to 10%. And that was a lot of fun. I gotta say, even wiping in this raid feels good. And that leads me to what I really want to talk about here. And that's progression, right? The only time in WoW's history where progression hasn't been a thing is the past, 5 or 6 years with classic WoW. The progression isn't there because these raids have all been figured out and done millions.
I Yes and no. Yeah. So progression is still there. It's it's the overabundance of knowledge that comes with a 20-year-old game. And in the very early original WoW days, you had two websites. You had Alakazam and you had Thoughtbot, and those were not always the most up to date, and they weren't always the most accurate. But those were what we had to be able to find information. There were no YouTube videos. There were no, there were things that people were still finding out to the game years later, and so there was no data mining and things like that. So I think that has somewhat killed how progression happens, as opposed to how it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Millions of times before, right? People played on private servers before Classic launched, and then even at Classic, there was PTRs and things like that. All of the progression was already done. So, and this is the only time in history that there hasn't been progression in WoW. Classic players have this idea that progression is not.
See, I think that there is a different type of progression that Blizzard has inadvertently, like, Pavlov dogged us into, which is metagaming. And that's the current progression in WoW, is getting to the highest gear score, getting the perfect comp, getting those tier slots on your gear pieces so that you can get that extra effect that comes with a 4 slot. Though that is the progression that WoW has now built into the game. Before that, it was the sense of accomplishment that comes with beating hard bosses. And so now the level of difficulty on the game has gone down, but the level of difficulty of actually getting to your meta is increased because of how just human sweatiness works, right? So I think that the true classic raid progression, yes, that is gone, but WoW has replaced that with metagaming.
Not fun, and it shouldn't be a thing. And if you have to progress and learn things, then the raid is overtuned. And I understand that mentality, but I do think that there's something to say here about the Scarlet Enclave. I think that it is perfect the way it is, and I really would like Blizzard not to nerf it. And I'm not playing with like a super sweaty guild or anything. I'm not clearing it. I'm a content creator on the game here. And I'm okay with this. If I wanted to go clear it and join a super sweaty guild, there are people clearing it at this point, or at least getting close, and I could do that. But I'm enjoying playing this the way that it is designed. And I think this is what Classic has been missing. I think they nailed it with the Scarlet Enclave. I think going forward into a Classic Plus or whatever comes next for the future of Classic, this is the stuff that we need. We need to get back to the roots of people not being able to walk in and 90% of the player base clears an entire raid on the first night.
Dude, 110%. I think that there's nothing bad about something being difficult if you're enjoying the process, right? And this game has been around for 20 years. There've been raid mechanics in it for the entirety of the game. So obviously we enjoy raiding. That's a given. What we have been conditioned to accept is that if something is hard, nerf it so that we can make it easy and get our gear. And I think that is the wrong sentiment to have when you are in the midst of progression. And the whole point of it is to feel like you've accomplished something at the end of a raid, and knowing that, it was really difficult. You died a few times, but you were able to overcome that, and in your group and your guild together, you were able to accomplish something that you haven't done before. I think that's a great feeling, and I think that's something that, um, us as players, we should look back and remember that this is what the game was built for. Is that feeling of accomplishment when you are doing a difficult task within the game.
All that really does is make people get bissed out way quicker. You get your best gear super fast, you log off faster, you raid log faster, especially without having GDKPs in the game, which is a huge controversial topic. I know a lot of people love them, a lot of people hate them. The fact is that with GDKPs in the game, it did give people more of a reason to play alts and keep raiding after their full biss. Maybe that was their way of farming gold. Whatever it may be, I know that people are going to be on both sides of the fence here. This is not a GDKP video, but the facts are that it did give another form of play at the end of the game. It was another form of enjoying the end game of WoW. After you were fully bissed and you had 4 or 5 characters, you wanted to farm, 250,000 gold, you just ran GDKPs all week on your alts. Nowadays, people kind of just raid log or jump to another version of WoW or go play a different game, which is completely okay as well. But
So this is my opinion. I cannot stand GDKPs, because I think that inherently GDKPs cater to the sweats and kill progression. What this is what happens is that you get a number of different guilds that are really good and have a lot of time, and they go in and they start doing GDKPs. And what happens is that people who are either new to the game or haven't progressed as fully as these teams have, they ride the coattails of people who have been there, done that, and they kill any sort of progression that they'll ever have in the game. And when you start doing that, it starts being pay to win. Yes, it is a player-driven economy of pay to win, but it's pay to win nonetheless. Because I don't know how easy it is to buy gold these days, but I'm assuming you could probably just go to a website and do it. and then you go get your gold. You do a GDKP, and then you get geared, and it's a form of pay to win, in my opinion.
I think going forward without GDKPs, if we move into a Classic Plus that doesn't have GDKPs, or it does, maybe it doesn't, either way, I think this is it. They nailed it with this raid. We need progression back in Classic WoW.
100%. So the only way that I think that GDKPs would work is if they were able to implement some sort of like a fail-safe system where you cannot do it on the current phase. Where like maybe like so right now in Season of Discovery, we're in phase 8. Allow GDKPs for Molten Core and Blackwing Lair, things that are currently on farm status, but nothing for any of the last, like, the most current and the previous phase, something like that. I don't know if that's if technically that is a capability that the developers can implement, but some sort of system that prevents people from doing GDKPs for the most current content. I think that would be the only way that it would, in my opinion, work inside of the game.
Watching the race, watching all of these guilds try and down these bosses, myself personally trying to down these bosses with 2 different guilds at this point, and then finally getting the kill on Balnazar, getting Beatrix down to 10%. It feels infinitely better than walking into this raid on night 1, clearing the entire thing. So if
Agreed.
you're sitting there asking yourself, is it worth it to come back to Phase 8? Is this raid designed well? Yes.
100%.
It's designed very well. It's hard. But Agrin has clarified for us in a few messages that the power creep, or the power scaling that we're going to get by getting gear in this raid is pretty high, right? So every week, if, 5, 6 people get a piece of gear from this raid, you're downing 1 boss, 2 bosses. Maybe the next week you're down 3 or 4 bosses. Your raid is going to get significantly stronger, which will...
See, and that's the thing that a lot of people forget is that power creep that you get when you are in the midst of progression. Like if you all remember having blue gear and green gear going into Molten Core, and you're scrambling to find no statted fire resistance armor and potions and shit. That's the sort of thing that you do when you're in the midst of progression. But when you get your first 2-3 pieces of tier sets, you get a really good weapon, that sort of thing. Those are the things that really start to kick progression into overdrive, especially when you start getting multiple people in your guild with these little pieces. And you'll see that power creep just start ticking upwards ever so slightly. And then as that does, the rate starts getting easier. And that's the whole point of progression.
Will decrease the level of difficulty in this raid on its own, naturally, without Blizzard implementing a nerf or giving you a buff. And I think that's great. That is the progression. Because when you do your 25th pull on that boss and you finally get that kill, or maybe you tried a bunch this week and then next week you go in and you get it on your 5th attempt, it feels infinitely better than walking into the raid, clearing a bunch of loot pinatas, and walking out with 25 pieces of loot.
Dude, 100%. So one of my fondest memories ever of progression is Nefarian. We all know that the end of Blackwing Lair, where you are battling this huge fucking dragon, and you have the different phases where you have to tank swap and watch out for the ads, and just you're going through the motions. But when you have a really good, like, in most cases the tanks and the healers get geared out first, at least in my experience, that's kind of what happens. But if you're standing, I've always played a rogue, and so like I've always been able to kind of withstand some of the being able to live through most of the raid encounters, just with my defensives that I have. But seeing a tank like 1%, the last bit of health, with everything that he has, and we have almost 0 people left standing up. He's running last stand. He's running shield wall. He's got every single cooldown going. He's potting, and you finally, after numerous attempts, get that 1% down to 0, and it's the coolest freaking feeling in the whole entire world.
Because guess what? That's going to get old really quick in about 2 to 3 weeks when you're full BIS, and you're going to have nothing to do. You're going to just have to start the whole process again on another character, or you might log off and not log back on. I think that the way they design the Scarlet Enclave, even if it's a little bit overtuned and we see some nerfs here in the future, we've already seen a couple, but if we see some more, that's okay. But leave it challenging. Challenging feels good here. It really does, and I think that they nailed it, and this is what Classic has been lacking. I know people want to go in and clear their raids, do this. We have that already. You can do that on Era. You can do that on Anniversary in the near future. You're going to be able to go into Molten Core with rank 14 gear, walk through the entire place. For what reason, I don't know, because you now don't need any real gear from it, aside from maybe some rings and stuff like that, but this is good. We now have both, right? We have Classic Era, we have Anniversary that'll go into TBC, and Classic Era possibly if you want to transfer your characters there, I don't know. But we have both. We have the version of the game where you can just play it how it was, walk in, clear everything, it's already been figured out, and then Season of Discovery or anything going forward, Classic Plus, whatever it may be, I think it needs to be designed like this. Now, maybe they could change it up a little bit, right? And actually add a switch where you can switch it from normal, heroic, mythic, whatever you want. I think that would be very beneficial to the player base, because there are some people out there that want to experience the new content but don't have 10 hours a week to prog a boss or whatever. Maybe add a normal mode for them, but the fact of the matter is, back in 2004, 2005, people just didn't get to clear the content until way later, and it felt good, and it added this sense of mystery, like, or when you saw someone who did have that gear, you were like, wow, this is awesome. I think...
Yeah, so he mentions that, about clearing content years later, and that's 100% true. Like, if you're recently new to the game, like maybe in the last 5-6 years, and never experienced Classic in its very first form, and I'm talking 20 years ago, like way back when, there were raids that just never got cleared until TBC, essentially. And so it's one of those things where that sort of gameplay is never going to happen in the game unless we do something like this, where we do add a level of difficulty to the raids, for the simple fact of let's try to actually progress through the game instead of just blowing through it and it becoming a loot pinata. And I think that that's his whole point here, is that the real loot from all of this is actually the feeling that you get from accomplishing a really difficult raid. And so I hope that they do that. One of the other things too that I think would be very interesting, and he mentioned this earlier, is different modes of the raids. And I think that having like a hard mode and like a nightmare mode would be really cool. I know they've started to kind of do like the hard mode in SOD right now, but I think that they could spice it up a little bit and actually put in some different mechanics, and do not make it like affixes where we know going in what the affixes are going to be. Let's make it something that we discover. Like, let's go into this raid blind and find out that there are 3 new mechanics that we have to deal with, or a full new phase that we have unlocked. And so I think that something like that would be really cool to see if they were able to implement that.
They nailed it. I think that's what Classic has been missing. And if they use this entire raid that they designed, which is phenomenal, by the way, the bosses, the mechanics, the layout, you really feel like you're taking on like the Scarlet Crusade. It's done exceptionally well.
It does. It looks so fucking good.
And if they take that philosophy going forward, Classic Plus or the next season or whatever is coming next will be a massive hit. I think it'll be the biggest MMO of all time. I think it will pull most of the retail player base in as well.
So at first, like, I was upset that they did not, like, you know, back when Season of Discovery, and even to some extent, like back when Classic was being remastered, and we got the announcements and things like that. I was hurt that they didn't do like a Classic Plus. And really, Season of Discovery is the closest that we've ever come to a true Classic Plus. And I thought about this for a long time, and I'm of the generation where I played EverQuest. And if anybody knows anything about EverQuest, they know that EverQuest 2 bombed terribly. And what happened is that there were so many people who were in tune with the classic style of EverQuest that a full update, I think, kind of alienated some of the classic players. And so what WoW has done, they've taken the introduction of a brand new video game or a brand new version of a game that's been out for so long, and have essentially PTR'd for the last 5 or 6 years things that they could implement in a Classic Plus, culminating right now with a whole fully fledged raid like Scarlet Enclave. And so I think we're the closest we've ever been to a Classic Plus in this time.
It's fantastic. If you're on the fence about it and you want to come back and test it out and just see the new content, definitely do it. Blizzard also mentioned that they have a dial that they can turn to kind of nerf the raid a little bit or buff up our characters a little bit as the weeks progress, kind of like the ICC buff, right? I think they should hold out on that for quite a bit because I'm really enjoying the prog here. I think everyone actually is. Some people are angry about it. It's too hard, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But this is new content. There was no PTR. That doesn't even happen on retail, okay? This is hard because no one...
Please, Blizzard, if you're listening, keep the no PTR. Let's keep this a mystery. No PTR for Season of Discovery or Classic Plus, please.
Knows the true mechanics. It's not figured it out yet. Give it a few weeks and it will not be this hard. Enjoy this, because once it's gone and once the guides are made and once it's figured out, you won't be able to experience it like this again. And you know what? If it is too hard for you right now, maybe just for a couple of weeks, keep running Nax, level another character. Once they start implementing the buff or maybe some more nerfs or people figure it out, then jump in and experience it. But I don't think nerfing it right now is the move. I think Blizzard nailed it with this raid. I think they did a crazy good job. And if this is the bar that they're setting for Classic Plus in the future or whatever is coming next, it's going to be awesome.
I agree. And to kind of add to his point of, trying something to help yourself progress, here's my biggest note. Go out and talk to people in the world. This is a massively multiplayer online video game. You have others that you can help and rely on. The whole point of this is to gather 40 people and accomplish something that you've never done before. And I think that is the one thing that we are heading away from by just looking for the meta and trying to be the best geared out of everybody, and not really enjoying the fact that you have so many other like-minded individuals that love the same video game that you love, that are nerdy and sweaty and are here for the fun of playing this game that we all love. And that will help you with your progression by making friends and putting yourself out there and enjoying the guild and, giving back to the people that you've been playing with for so long by helping them progress. Those are the things that I think that we need to continue in this game to make it thrive. That's just my, you know, pie in the sky 2 cents. But yeah, enjoy your time with this because, you know, it may not be around for too long.
Gonna break the internet, and I think this was a very, very good raid. Absolutely well done. And if the devs are watching this, you guys did a fantastic job. And seriously, consider keeping this same design philosophy going forward with any future projects with Classic. It is amazing, and I've been loving every second of it. But anyways, I want to know how you guys feel down in the comments below. I know I'm going to get a lot from both sides, but I really want to hear all of you. So drop some comments down below. Let me know your experiences. If you're on the fence about coming back for SOD Phase 8 and you want to try this out and know if the raid is worth it, it 100% is. Come on back and try it. But anyways, guys, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. And jump over to my Twitch, twitch.tv/Haammerdance. We stream Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time over there. And if you want to join an awesome Discord community full of...
All right. So once again, that is Haammerdance. If you have not checked him out on Twitch or on YouTube, I highly suggest giving him a follow and liking his channel, all that sort of stuff. But that is my honest take on the Phase 8. I know that he had some strong opinions about just how well the raid has been put together, and I too have thoroughly enjoyed it. And so if you feel like you haven't gotten that real like difficult progression feel and accomplishment, I definitely recommend you checking out the Scarlet Enclave raid. It's really great. It looks good. You know, it's entirely okay for everybody to feel like they're not getting enough out of this game because they don't have enough time or they don't have enough energy. But this is the one moment in WoW that I think that if you do, or if you are looking for something a little bit more, the Scarlet Enclave raid is the place that you need to be, because it does give you that old school feeling of difficulty plus reward. And I think that that's important. So if you also like what you see here on my videos, please feel free to drop me a comment. Let me know how you vibed with it, and subscribe for more WoW content. So be legendary, my friends.